Here's a Frigidaire EFIC117-SS. Ice maker, countertop, I guess a little ice maker from, they sell at Walmart, I think, or something like that. Pretty cheap, $100. Well, it's always asking to add water. After 10-15 minutes, it just automatically starts like it has water. Even though it has water in it, I never have to add it. Well, when it gets low, of course, but having water, even up to the max, it'll make a batch of ice, and it uses very little water, so it should continue to make ice. But instead, it says add water. So we're trying to figure out what's going on with it. So there's that add water, light, ice fill, power, small and large cubes or little round things it makes. So I'm removing I already removed the back end. I'm removing the front end. They're just screws at the bottom. There's little Phillips screws on the bottom here. I just need that one right there, and I'm going to take this panel out and see what happens. Well, there's also 2 screws on the edges for the front cover to come off. I already took off that screw right there. But there's still this screw I'm going to remove, and it sounds like there might be a little bit of insulation behind there, so be careful when we're taking this off. So there is some insulation when you pull it off that's stuck, mainly at the top. See that? And a little bit on the side sometimes, but mainly at the top there's some insulation that got stuck. So when you pull the front end, you will be pulling that insulation, and it goes grooved up inside. It goes in there. The top edges go in there. So I did a little bit of research on where the water float switch is, water sensing switch is, and it's at the top, right here in the corner. I was thinking it might be this rod right here, inside there, but it wasn't. So I put that front end back. You don't have to take off the front end. And I'm taking off the screws now. Taking off the screws around the top edge of the lip here and over there, so I can remove this cover, so I can get to a switch that's right here. I can check it. So after removing 4 screws, one here, one right here, and the opposite corner also one there and one there, the top just comes loose, but you got to be careful. There's a wire with a harness on the board. I don't suggest to disconnect, because little things like that can break easily or can bend, so I wouldn't mess with it, other than just remove the lid slowly, let it sit where it's doesn't have too much tension on the wire. Somehow. Let's see how we can do that. If not, just move it to the side. It doesn't have to come off. Just here to the side, because you want to get to this switch right here. This one is our sensor, and it looks corroded. It looks rusty. So I'm going to take that off, clean it up real good, make sure it's grounding good, and then retry. So I removed a 1 Phillips head screw. It's a little screw that holds that sensor. Now, if you look closely, that sensor is just a wire and a little wire eye connector that goes to the board. I think it probably just uses a ground. For a certain amount of time, it grounds out. It knows that it's poured water. Well, this one looks like it's got buildup on that tip and is not reading. So I'm going to take it off and clean it. And I think that's going to do the trick. So after removing it, this is the little wire. And it just senses all it does is sense water flow. And it's timed. I'm pretty sure it works on a timing method. But it was built up with corrosion. I took a little sandpaper to it and cleaned it up. Had a good amount of buildup where it probably wasn't sensing. So it thought it didn't pour shit, but it did. And put it back, and there was a little bit of rust buildup right here. So I cleaned it off. With time, I guess it gets built up. So I kind of wiped it down a little bit. I need to clean it up a little bit more. and put it back together. So I plugged it back up. Everything looks good. Fans on, compressors on. Just started up. It poured water. I didn't have no alarm. And it just started maybe 10-15 seconds ago. There's a little sweat, little white starting to get cold. There you go. That ISO refrigerant is working. It just started up. Let's see how long it takes to make the first ice cubes. So here comes the first batch of ice. There it is. Now those little cubes are pretty small compared to what I've seen. Get one of these just to show you. You know, normally these are a lot thicker, especially on the large setting. But the reason for that is because I just poured in the water and it's just room temperature. After this cycle, that water is now chilled down because it dumps the remaining water that was in the cooling area back into the tub. So we're gonna have a lot thicker ice on the next batch. That was 6 minutes, by the way. In 6 minutes it did that. Well, it's on the second batch. Normally it would have made that one ice batch that I showed you just a bit ago, and our light would have came on as a need to add water. But this one went into the second one, so cleaning that probe repaired our issue for the light add water coming on even though the bin still has water in it. So it's been about 8 minutes. It's been about 8 minutes and no ice yet. It's taking a little longer, but it should be any second now. There it goes. I'd say about closer to 9 minutes. Now it's dropping. That's a hot gas bypass. It drops all of them. See how thick those are compared to the others? Turn the light on that. Here's the ones that it did first. Look at how the difference in thickness. They're thicker, for sure. And no alarm. It's going into the next cycle. It's pumping water and the compressor's on, so voila. It was the sensor that was causing that alarm to come on and stop ice making.